Sony, Sony, Sony. I know for a fact that this company is capable and responsible for a lot of good things in the gaming industry. On top of that, this company is also responsible for numerous, and I mean numerous, controversies these past few years. I really didn't feel right making a video essay on them because so many already cover their problems, but after seeing their announcement of them shutting down Japan's studio, I think I need to have a serious discussion on why I'm worried for them. I'm going to be mentioning a lot of my views in the gaming industry more than any of my previous productions, so I hope that's okay with you all. Anyway, let's start with my first issue, which is... This is a pretty obvious problem, so I won't try to overcomplicate things. Around late February, it has been reported that Sony is shutting down Japan's studio, one of their major first-party developers. On top of this, they seem to be starting to focus more on developing grander AAA titles. This can be shown by the previously mentioned changes with Japan's studio and announcement of a Last of Us remake. To give you context, The Last of Us was a game released just a few months before the PS4's launch. I have so many problems with this for various reasons. For one, it's important to understand that when making a console, exclusives are going to be what makes you stand out. People want to get a console that has great exclusives and good third-party support. Nintendo doesn't have the greatest record with other developers, but many can agree that their first-party offerings are often enough to get a new console. Heck, I bought a Wii U and never had a PS4 back then for that same reason. By making your studios only develop these titles that release at least twice per year, not only are you not offering enough to your platform, it also brings a lack of variety. On top of all this, you can even lose appeal. I know that these are truly amazing games. I never played The Last of Us, but I have seen enough to fully see why people enjoy it. Though, to be really honest with you, I prefer to play something simpler like Gravity Rush. I do understand that many fans like those kinds of games, but even so, you need to appeal to as many people who own or want to get your consoles. Especially now that someone is making preparations, but I'll get to that in a moment. I really do understand that Japanese titles don't really do well, but that doesn't mean you can't try other projects. I'm not asking for the next sequel to a dead IP, but something familiar but also new to an existing current franchise would be a good step forward.
Because honestly, I for one am not completely afraid of an all-digital future. I think there's a lot of potential really cool stuff that can come from digital as a distribution method. However, the way a lot of companies are handling it right now isn't the best example of what it could be, and honestly, what is best for the consumer.
This is a pretty talked about topic, but I feel I should give my thoughts on the matter as well. So around late March, Sony announced that the PlayStation stores for the PS3 and PSP were going to close on July 2nd and the Vitas on August 27th. Is what I would have said if it wasn't for a lot of people online bashing Sony for this decision. Before I get more in detail, let me ask this. Why the heck was there so much outcry when Sony announced this, but not Nintendo when the Wii Shop channel closed? No, seriously, I mean a lot of fans did talk about it, but it felt like many didn't care. I get that the Wii is on a completely different level than the PS3. I can understand how many can't afford new consoles, so they play online on this one, but it still amazes me how some people felt okay about the Wii Shop closing down. Just saw that as a bit interesting to mention. As I was saying, the backlash regarding the online markets was so large that it made Sony change plans. They announced around mid-April that the PS3 and Vita stores will stay open, but we're still closing down the PSPs. This eventually brought an interesting question. Is a future with only digital games a smart idea? You see, once these companies close down their online shops, they will never come back, meaning you can't purchase any more titles from that respective console. Many, including myself, wouldn't mind this if it wasn't for them refusing to re-release their titles to newer platforms. Which now brings me to my thoughts on the overall conversation. To be honest with you, I'm more of a physical games kind of person. I like having them on shelves and having the ability to sell them, despite almost my entire Switch collection being digital. Maybe you could argue I'm more of a digital kind at this point. It hurts me a lot to know that we're going to have to live in a world where digital is the only way to play these titles, but it's something we have to accept. It makes a lot of sense why developers are choosing this route, but as many, I wouldn't want a digital-only future if stuff like this is happening. I definitely get where they're coming from. Both Nintendo and Sony need to get their act together in these kinds of situations, or else it'll just encourage more to emulate or even pirate their old games. Ooh, I seriously got very off topic, but you really see how this is a problem? These stores closing will mean more than just being unable to buy new games. It could potentially lose some of the best titles we've ever had. And I think there's no other way to mention the good between the two evils than now. This is my most important reason why Sony needs to rethink their structure, at least understand how to make the most profit in a consumer-friendly way. Just so people don't speculate about it, I never really saw the Xbox brand as good. I don't know if it was because I grew up playing games around the 8th generation, causing me to think that the brand is just Halo, Call of Duty, and nothing else, but I really mean it when I say that Microsoft is becoming more aggressive towards Sony in this new generation with the Series X, especially with the Game Pass. My point here is that if Sony doesn't do anything about their new brand and fans, Microsoft will. They've already been making preparations by purchasing companies like Bethesda and even heard rumors that they could possibly buy Sega. Sony is already losing so many good franchises through both closing their smaller studios and Microsoft buying out their best developers in the market. On top of that, they've also been pushing their backwards compatibility in their consoles, meaning you can play up to original Xbox games on a modern console. Many in their defense will say that PlayStation Now exists, but that's a streaming service, which means you can't play through discs you own and experience a bit but enough lag for the game to not feel right. The Xbox has a long way from being the best. But with more choices I see Sony make, the more I think this will make Microsoft more appealing among consumers. This is easily a video I didn't feel like making. Some may argue I shouldn't have, considered how late it is after Sony's recent actions mentioned. However, I really feel like these kinds of topics have to be mentioned no matter the time. I've been noticing this a lot in various industries, but never did I think that the video game one shows this issue the most. So a bit of context. It's fair to say that when starting a new business, you want it to be successful. Pretty common knowledge, right? But what if I told you that if you don't act mature about it, success can be your downfall? Sounds like common sense, but this is my biggest issue with Sony as a company. Their overwhelming success is what makes them overconfident and expect that people would buy anything from them just because of the PlayStation brand. This is a very dangerous mindset that can easily backfire, and it actually has. Look at the PS3. At the time, they knew how popular their consoles were, so they decided to make one over $500 and expected their fans would blindly buy. Well, we kind of are now, not going to lie. But the point still stands. If you do something completely against what your buyers want, you can easily lose them. I really love Sony as a company. They are capable of doing some amazing things, but I don't want this to be a generation where they drag away from what made them so great. I highly doubt that the PS5 will stop selling so well, but it's issues like these that the more people know about them, they won't consider. Worst case scenario is this goes off like in the 7th generation, where Microsoft did great, but then detracted so much that everyone went with the PS3. All I can say at this point is I really hope Sony could potentially learn of what they're doing. If not, this can be very damaging to their brand in the long run. Well, there you have it. A Nintendo fan talking about Sony and why I'm worried for them. I really hope you all enjoyed today's production. I don't know how reception will be on this one considering how old this news is, but I wanted to give my own take on it. Anyway, if you excuse me, I'll go see if I have any luck on the PS5 again. This is a karaoke from Mint Studios.